For far too long, foreign companies have come into our lands, taking advantage of our lax regulations and take our resources away. Resources that were meant to be worked on and profited by the local people. We, as local people, were not given any kind of representation under the guise that, oh, we're not smart enough, we are unable to compete with the foreign workers that comes from their lands, for example, or that the worker here aren't as cheap as other countries, therefore we're going to open the factories there at the end of the day. They're able to just come here and then conduct some bullshit CSR and then inherently go away, for example, taking advantage of all of those things. We said that enough is enough. It's time for us to demand a sustainable benefit in terms of ensuring that we always have jobs, that these foreign companies always give local workers a chance to be hired at the end of the day. So 2 mechanizations that comes from OG. 1, we said that it needs to be contextualized in this debate, that foreign companies that we're talking about are big companies with huge capital. They're able to inherently lobby governments, for example, because they are huge, they're very, very rich, they're able to operate in lots of countries. But 2, understand that the minimum quota of hiring local workers that we want happens in all layers of jobs, both white collars, blue collars, board of directors, all the way to factory workers. The number is proportionate to, of course, the size of operation that the company has, but also to the number is dictated by economists at the end of the day, right? So what will OG bring? 2 things. 1, we're going to talk about the level of fairness, why the status quo currently isn't fair and why this would fix that. But 2, the practical implications as to why foreign companies needs to benefit the people on the ground, especially in developing countries, in terms of giving jobs. Talk about first thing, right? Why do foreign companies operate in developing countries? 3 reasons. 1, lower taxes, right? They are able to inherently take advantage of our lax regulations because we so desperately want the investments at the end of the day. Governments want to ensure that they have enough money in their reserve to actually do all of their programs. That's why they allow, for example, lax tax to allow that foreign companies come and operate here. 2, they want to tap into our huge market. India, for example, has lots of huge population they're able to tap into. But 3, and most importantly, they want to be closer to natural resources, right? They want to work in developing countries because they have incentive to lobby governments, for example, to give them the right to utilize these resources that were supposed to be worked on for the benefit of the local people. They want to gain cheap access to it. Therefore, they lobby governments heavily to ensure that they are given access to these particular resources at the end of the day. The end game is simple: profit. They operate in developing countries because it's more profitable for them, right? They must take advantage of what is supposed to be the livelihood of the people, the resources that were supposed to be worked on by the people. We don't think this is very fair because the people on the ground are not given the direct benefit on which that these resources have, because it's the results of foreign companies lobbying these governments and gaining access to these resources are usually only affected to the local, to the central government, and the central government will have the money, for example, that is going to be allocated in form of taxes and so on and so forth, right? We don't think this is fair specifically to the local people that happens, exist near particular that area, for example, because they are able to gain the benefit that is direct exactly because of this. And they don't necessarily have and any form of CSR that necessarily happens does not give the sustainable impact that would affect them in the long run, right? That is to say that these sustainable help, this CSR is usually comes in a form of direct help of sembako or whatever that necessarily does not give that particular benefit that they want. So why then we think it's fairer this way? Because job is direct. Ensuring that companies open job vacancies is not something that is dependent towards externalities like government, for example. That is that we don't have to wait for government to act on the money that is given by these companies. We can just wait for them to wait for the companies to open up job vacancies, for example, and then we can just simply apply, for example, to ensure that we have a sustainable benefit because we are constantly getting wages and so on and so forth. This is much fairer, right? Exactly, because it's direct. It's dependent on less externalities, and it ensures that we also are benefited from them exploiting the resources that essentially happens on our lands, for example. What is the practical implication? 3 reasons. 1, it's good because it allows higher quality jobs to be available in a much abundant number, right? 2 analysis on this. First, it's good on people who are middle to lower, exactly because now it's more likely for these companies to be mandated to open factories, for example, if their operations is huge. This looks like IKEA, or this looks like Nike, for example, now having forced to open up factories in Indonesia, for example, allowing absorption of people on the ground who are low skilled to actually enter the workforce in that particular field and to actually be, having wages that are inherently deserving, for example, in comparison to working in other places, like, for example, being beggars on the streets and something like that, that inherently people in developing countries do, for example, when there's less job. But two, on the middle to upper class, it's also good, exactly because now they have higher paying salary, right? Working in MNCs, for example, they're able to have a chance to climb the corporate ladder, knowing that now local representation is asked and demanded in all layers of this corporate, and therefore they have a chance to actually climb that, and it's not, the upper echelon is not just limited to foreign people, which means better opportunities in the long run. But secondly, also as important, let's talk about the idea of transfer of knowledge, right? With that strategic position allows this particular motion allows people to have access to strategic positions in that foreign companies, right? Exactly because now they are demanded to open up spots for these people, right? This allows these local people to understand the inner workings of the companies and gain invaluable work experience that would have been blocked by them, by these foreign companies, exactly because it would usually be reserved to these foreign people that comes from distant lands and not just comes from us. But secondly, training is more incentivized because companies are now more incentivized to train their workers regularly to perform more efficiently, knowing that now these local workers are going to stay here for good, for example, because there's minimum quota and they will always have local workers, therefore they're more likely to invest in their workers to ensure that they are going to perform efficiently in the long run. This wouldn't happen if this motion doesn't exist, exactly because they're going to see the local workers as just something as, a PR stunt or just like, something that is not going to be here for long anyway. So there's it's not profitable for them to inherently invest in these particular people, exactly because they're not going to stay for good. But lastly, and also as important, now office politics in these foreign companies will have a local point of view, right? That is to say, discussions regarding product manufacturing, for example, will always have local perspective, knowing that now local people are now represented in terms of decision making in these companies. This means that all of the hiring local people will always benefit local people as well in the long run, knowing that now people are more represented, their views are also represented, and that the work is inherently, going to give more. It's going to get more work for people very proud to propose.